Welcome back to part 2, where we're discussing having the sellers pay for the buyer's closing costs. So in part 1, we talked about requesting the sellers to pay closing costs up front when you submit the offer, which I don't normally recommend unless you absolutely need the sellers to pay your closing costs in order to purchase the home. Otherwise, I would say leave that alone and save it for after inspection. So in the same example, let's say you're purchasing the home for $200,000. You've now gotten the home inspected and you discover the roof needs to be replaced. So you get a bid from a roofer and they say it's going to cost $10,000 to replace the roof. And the sellers don't want to deal with replacing the roof before closing, but they'll give you the $10,000 so that you can replace the roof after closing. Now, if you're requesting that in all closing costs, if your agent just writes up, all right, the seller's giving you $10,000 as a seller credit, and your closing costs are only $5,000, you've now got a $5,000 balance that's not going to go anywhere. The lender is not going to allow that extra $5,000 to just be given to you in cash. It's not going to go back to the seller. It's just gone. So in that situation, what you could do is you ask the seller to pay $5,000 in your closing costs, so that'll cover your entire amount of closing costs, and then that additional $5,000 can be used to reduce the price of the home. So now you're paying $195,000 for the home and getting $5,000 in a seller credit to take care of your closing costs. So that's how you would get that $10,000 in the end. So to recap, it's really important to know how much your closing costs are going to be, so you know how much money you kind of have to play with after inspections. And again, I recommend do not request closing costs up front when you make the offer unless you absolutely need those closing costs in order to purchase the home. So if you have any questions, please let me know, and keep watching at Nicole and HTX to learn more about the real estate process.